Welcome back to another episode of Meredith with a Y. I am your host, Meredith Willits, and today we have Kavita Ahuja, a certified career and life transition coach and founder of It's My Time Now, and also host of the Midlife Reinvention podcast. So stay with us. Hello, everyone. This is Meredith with a Y, and I am your host, Meredith Willits. Today we are going to go deep, changing lives, and I am giving you the keys to the castle. Kavita, thank you so much for being here today. This topic is so on point for so many of my listeners. So thank you for coming here and sharing. We have so much to talk about.
It's such a pleasure, Meredith. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to dive right in. How are you today?
I'm doing well. You have your own podcast. You
I do,
create
yes.
like life coaching things for us midlife women who are transitioning. But I have to ask you, why did you leave the safety of corporate America to do to be an entrepreneur? Because this is like there's no downtime. So why did you do this?
Yes. I was just talking to a potential client about this. It was something that I didn't plan, honestly, Meredith. It was my career was great. Like from the outside, it seemed perfect. Everything was great, successful, very lucrative, comfortable. But I think that's what happened is it was just comfortable and it was fine, towards when I turned in my early 50s, I started really kind of questioning if this was it, right?
Yeah.
For me, whether this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life and whether I was really utilizing all my capabilities, all my skills, if I was really pursuing my passions. And while it was great from the outside and everybody had said, well, are you crazy? Everything seems perfect. It wasn't perfect inside.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that resonates with you, but that's why I decided. It took me, it wasn't like easy. And I was like, oh, yes, I'm going to leave. It took me a good 2 years to finally decide to leave because I had, the fears.
Yeah. And
What are people going to say? Am I going to fail? All those things that these inner critics that come up in our heads that tell us that one way or the other we're going to fail. But it became so loud, that voice, that it was really something I couldn't ignore anymore. And so then I just decided to leave and pursue my reason for being, I guess.
well, I have so many women that are either transitioning out of like that stay-at-home motherhood, where we
Mhm.
put our lives on hold for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and
Mhm.
now we wanna get back in the biz. Why did you decide to coach women on this?
Exactly for that reason, because I think, my coaching program, it's called It's My Time Now. And I really believe for women at any stage, whether it's, being staying at home moms and going back into the workforce or, retiring or like looking at your next thing, it's about, we're used to, we're so used to looking after other people. And often we are the last rung in the ladder, or so what I'd say, so we don't give ourselves this time and space and also the permission to really figure out who we are and to give us, to understand who we are and to go for it. And I think because sometimes, oftentimes we feel guilty as well because we're not used to um, taking the time for ourselves. So I coach women especially because I really want them to know that it's their time to figure out who they are and it's their time to really utilize all of their skills, all of their passions, and to really, it's never too late. I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are, to really figure out what you want, and so that's why I really focus on women because I think we're givers and we don't give ourselves, we don't give to ourselves enough. Let's say, let's put
Well,
it
I
that
think
way.
it's funny because I was just talking to my girlfriend about this, about how so I've been a mom since I've been 23. I'm 52
Mhm.
now. So by the time my youngest graduates, I will have been a stay-at-home kind of entrepreneurial, touch and go sort of thing mom
Mhm.
for over 32 years. And when I speak about the idea of like, hey, I want to do this for myself or that for myself, it either comes out like I don't know if the word is selfish, but it almost comes off like I'm complaining about my life. Like I'm not complaining about the last 32 years. I'm just talking about the next 32 years or
Mhm,
why I need this or
mhm,
expressing. And so it's like I don't want to sound like I'm complaining or whining about being a mom,
mhm.
just as much as if someone's transitioning out of, I'm not complaining about my corporate position. I'm not saying my life was horrible doing that, but I'm just transitioning. Why is it, or maybe it's not the same, or maybe it is the same for men to transition from one thing to another? How do we not sound like we're complaining or feeling sorry for ourselves and that we just want something for ourselves? Does that make sense?
It does. I think the word that comes to my mind when you asked me that question was maybe a lot of guilt. Like maybe we shouldn't be feeling like the shoulds come up. Like
Yeah.
why should I be feeling like this? Because everything is fine. And I think the so I'm a transitions coach, right? And what transitions really, what you're describing are like a phases of a transition. And when you have these triggers that sometimes it can be external, like like it could be a layoff, or it could be, going, you had a divorce, or you're going, you're retiring, or you're just going back after having kids. Those are triggers. But then the second part of it is like trying to figure out what it is you want next. And that's a really important part. And that happens both for women, men and women. And that, what you were describing is that period of like uncertainty and almost guilt. It's like, why should I should just go back to feeling like what I was before. Everything was fine. But you can't undo that, really. You can't undo those triggers, because then
Yeah.
that sets you up for the next phase, which is really the action piece. It's like, okay, now I know what I'm going to do. I don't know if that answered your question, but I kind of,
Yeah, I mean, I just think
I,
that so many people like either question when someone shifts their career,
mhm.
especially if it's for less money. Like why would you leave that amazing job? Probably what you listen to. Everything's perfect.
Mhm, mhm,
But also like transitioning from being like the stay-at-home mom that's there for everybody to say, okay, now you need to do your own laundry.
mhm.
You need to, XYZ because I'm going to go do my own thing. And and not wanting your kids to be like, but so like you don't want to be a mom anymore. So like you didn't care about it. Like there's the
Yeah.
inside
Judgment,
voice,
judgment,
right?
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's the
Mhm,
inside voice that's make believe,
mhm.
the I shoulds or
Yes.
I need tos. But then there's the external reality of people actually like you probably I don't know if you did go through that. You're saying that you felt that way. But the external of people actually saying those things to you, which is,
Oh,
don't
yeah.
you just want to be a stay-at-home mom or why did you do that? Like
Yeah.
why are people so uncomfortable with other people's changes? What is that?
Maybe because they're afraid of making their own changes? I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right, because they sometimes, people see others who make a big shift in their lives, or do transition, or do go start a new business, and I don't know if the word jealousy is it, but maybe they're envious of the fact that this person had the courage to do so, and so it might be that, oh, wow, like, okay, and so then it comes out as judgment. So I think the biggest thing when you are going through any kind of transition like this is, there is, that outside thing where, I have to do everything perfect, and it's that judgment piece, and people actually, oh, that happened to me for sure. It's like even my closest friends would be like, "Well, why are you doing this? Like, everything is great. You have a great job and you're making good money. Why would you do something less like so take such a risk?" It's like, well, because it aligns with who I am, right?
The thing about that is like yelling at me right now is what I tell so many people is that you remind other people. We remind others so often of who they are or who
Mhm.
they aren't. And a
Yes.
lot of times our very existence makes other people uncomfortable because maybe they have been wanting to make the change. Maybe
Yes.
they have been, sitting on the edge of that transition, or maybe they are sick of being a stay-at-home mom, or maybe they do want to be a stay-at-home mom and you're doing those things or
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so it's like, when I look at you, I either am jealous or I feel guilty or I feel shame. And so
Mhm.
I'm going to like try to figure out the whys. Are you doing that? So when you are talking to someone in your coaching, and what's the name of your coaching? You have a core coaching program that you do. And now is that a group or is that one-on-one?
It's one-on-one, and it's called It's My Time Now Coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one-on-one coaching where I take women through a real process. It's called a pyramid of reinvention, and it's a process of really first understanding what's internal, what are their strengths, passions, values. I go through the process of helping them understand their Ikigai. I'm not sure if you know what that term means. I can get into that if you like, but it's really a Japanese term for reason for being. And once we determine that,
I
then
heard Ikigai.
Ikigai.
I read in your sheet, your one sheet, that word. I didn't know that that's how it was pronounced. So my brain just put them both together. So yes,
Oh, so
yes,
you're
and I do want to talk about the Ikigai.
yes. So yeah, in answer to your question, I take them through the process of that, determining their why, also going through their blocks, envisioning their future, like what is it they really want, like it's called an inner mentor, like who do you see yourself in 10, 20 years? And how are you going to get to her, right? It's about uncovering blocks and gaining confidence as well. So, but it's also practical. Like once you figure it out, like, okay, I want to start a business helping women solo travel, let's say, that this is what my goal is. This is what my reason for being is. It's like, so it's also practically, how are you going to do that in the world? So it's a bit of both. It's a bit of the internal and also the implementation. So it's really a journey that I take my clients through, and I love it. And it's so rewarding, and I've just see so much transformation. And sometimes when you have somebody coming from the outside who sees things that you don't in yourself, that's when the magic happens. I don't
Yeah,
know if you've
again, the
experienced that or
mirror.
if you've
Yeah,
sorry,
the
go ahead.
mirror, right? The mirror,
Yes.
like you're helping them be a positive mirror instead
Mhm.
of the make believe mirror in their head or the real mirror of maybe friends who have always seen them. So for myself, we have moved a lot in for
Mhm.
my husband's career, which has allowed me to reinvent myself in a really interesting way because my mirrors have disappeared. So the
Mhm.
mirrors that knew me when I was 16, then the mirrors that knew me when I was 30, they just kept
Mhm.
disappearing. And then the mirrors at 35 disappeared and the mirrors at 40 because we moved. And so I
Yes.
was allowed to reinvent myself without someone going, but I thought you were this person or
Yes.
seeing me as that person, and I could just show up as being a completely new person. So
And
I
how did
love
that
this.
feel for you? How did that
Huh?
feel for you? How did that feel for you when you were able to do that? Like, it's kind of like unpacking the layers of you, right? Almost?
It's so freeing because
Yeah.
honestly, and I've told this story here before, I'm sure, when we drove from Florida to Chicago, we live in Chicago, and when we
Mhm.
drove here, I sneakily asked my husband, "Well, what do you not like about, being married to me?" And he's like, "Nothing." And he's like, what do you not like about being married to me?" And I go, "I'm sick of being your wife."
Oh.
And he said, "Oh?" And I said,
Yes.
"Yeah, because he works in sports." And so we would go to sit in this, I would sit in the suite with the kids. And in the suite would be the CFO's wife and the president's wife and this, the marketer's whatever, and
Yeah.
kids. And we'd be done. And he would say, like, "So what'd you guys talk about? What did you say?" Like, you said that. And when we moved to Chicago, so it's been about almost 9 years now, I said, "I will never sit in another suite ever again.
Mm.
I will never be Jim Willett's wife ever again." I
Mhm.
said, "I will
Mhm.
sit in seats. I will sit in a club, which is my favorite, and I will talk to people, but I'm not gonna be put in a position where I sit with someone for 2 hours and then I'm your wife and everything I
Yes.
do is an extension of who you are." And so when I came here, I removed all of those layers, which were my ego
Yes.
attached to him, good or bad. And
Yes.
that gave me the freedom with each move to say, okay, I no longer want to attach myself to the way I was there, I behaved there, or who I was as a career there, or the things I
Mhm.
said. And
Mhm.
when we move, I got a whole new redo. And it sounds like what you do because I was like a partner in a clothing company when I lived in Florida 8 years ago, and now I do completely different things. And so it
Yes.
sounds like what you do is give these women an entirely new mirror
Yes.
to see themselves through, that maybe they don't get the privilege of seeing because it's their husband mirroring them, their
Yes.
friend, their mom, their sister, their children, who see them as X. They will
Yes.
always see them as X. They have always seen them as X. And now you're coming in and like, you're X plus Y plus Z plus B plus K. And you can be all the things, and you can be,
Yes. Yes.
a Wonder Woman, or
Yes.
anything that you do or don't want to be anymore. And I think
Yes.
that that's so difficult because I believe that so often men align themselves with what they do. First question asked at a party, what do you do?
Mhm.
Shake of the hands, what do you do?
Mhm.
And then women, that's not usually the first question. However, I think that so often we align ourselves with the pride of being a stay-at-home
Mhm.
mom, a homemaker, a
Mhm.
worker, whatever, and it sounds like you breathe entirely new life into women who have seen themselves maybe only one way, especially if they've had one career or been only a stay-at-home mom and can't see themselves in this new way.
Yes. Wow, 100%. That yeah, that's a
I'll
great.
be
I
your
mean,
PR person.
yeah. Well, I
Forget
think what
those.
you just described, Meredith, is the roles that we play, right? I mean, we play many different roles in our lives, and we play them to perfection. Often, as women, and I often say that it's what role is it? What role does your heart want to play? Like, who are you really like? And so you're right. When you are open yourself up to things that are inside of you that you didn't even know existed, um, like I'll give you an example. I had a client, if you want me to. I had a
Yeah.
client who was like so she is a double PhD, so she's like super brilliant, amazing in her career. Like she had like has a perfect scientific career, like people would die for that. And she came to me because she was felt really, really stuck, really overwhelmed, very burnt out. And when we went through the layers, as you said, of marrying, what is it that she want, what's causing all this, we realized that she had these buried passions. She's a very accomplished artist. She's a painter and she's a musician, and she hadn't done that in decades. And when we realized that this is something that she's missing in her life, she started painting. She started, you know, her music, and it just brought all this positive energy in her life. That now it's completely changed her outlook of her work. So
Yeah.
it's not like, you said that reinvention doesn't mean that you have to give up everything, right? I often say it's uncovering what's always been inside of you, and so layering that into it. So it's not like I have to give up everything and start fresh. It's like, what do you have? Like you're starting from experience. Like even as a stay-at-home mom, like look at all the things that you've done in the last 9 months or a year, or what you've been with your kids.
Yeah.
How do you apply those things into your life? So it's not about really starting over. It's about starting from where you are.
And I made a video. I am on social media as well, and I made
Hmm.
a video one time talking about the midlife crisis is not a crisis at all. It's an awakening.
Hmm.
It's I've been doing it this way, the way society tells me or told me, or my parents, or the ideals, like that's scraping and clawing to get it to the house, right? The house, the car,
Mhm.
the kids, whatever. And you all
Mhm,
of a sudden you
mhm,
wake up one day and you're like, okay, I did the things, but who else am I?
mhm,
What's underneath survival?
mhm,
What's underneath achievement?
mhm,
And I think that that's what you're speaking to, is the layers of a person. And I find myself, I actually just made a different video about this recently. I have a lot of clients that come to me because I also do life coaching,
mhm,
is um, they feel like flakes because they'll go from one job to one job, incredibly successful. I have a client that has gone from like the top magazines of the world that you can imagine, And she's, you know, from this to this to this, incredibly successful and feels like a flake. And I'm like, no, you're just a fast manifester. You're just manifesting life after life after life inside of one lifetime. And I
Mm-hmm.
posted about that. And there were so many people that commented that are like, I'm very successful, but yes, my family will call me a flake. They'll call me like I'm all over the place. What is it? Jack of all trades, master of
Mm-hmm.
none. But it's like, no, that's not it. I have a lot of ideas. And that's how I feel about myself is like, I don't want to fit inside of a box. I've never wanted to fit inside a box. Just even saying the word makes my stomach a bit nauseous. But at the same time, I feel like some people might look at me and go, pick a lane. Like I've actually had friends that are like, you need to niche. You need to niche out if you're ever going to be successful. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, but that feels so weird
But
to,
what does successful mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's your definition of success? You can ask them that, right?
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the better question. So
Mm.
you have to tell me what the yucky guy is. Because I know I'm
Yucky
saying it wrong, but that's how I heard it.
guy.
The yucky guy.
That's a good one. I should. It's Ikigai.
Oh, icky guy.
Yeah, Ikigai. Oh, you can call it Ikigai, whatever you
I
like.
mean, there's a t-shirt there somewhere.
Yeah. Before I want to get into that. I just want to address what you just said about
Yeah.
being a flake and going from one thing to the other. And I think what happens is oftentimes people think that like something happens and they think they can just change jobs or do something else and then everything will be fixed. They'll fix whatever is
Mm.
feeling and they're feeling inside. If something is in not right, I'll just get another job. I'll just, end this relationship and find another person, or I'll move cities and everything will be fixed. But until and unless you actually determine what it is internally that you really want and who you are, those fixes, those changes won't take. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that may be why people move from one thing to the other and that they don't really ever find anything that is in line with who they are.
My
Um,
dad always said that. He's like, "Yeah, this person's moving. The problem is they'll be there when they get there." Like meaning you cannot run from your problems because you're most likely
yes.
the problem.
Yeah.
And I always think about like fix your stuff now and then
Mm-hmm.
when you fix it and you're happy, then move. Don't move trying to find happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Like don't try to be happy, okay, I'm going to get a
And
divorce
then,
and then I'll be happy. No,
mm-hmm.
be your most happy now whilst getting a divorce or moving or changing
Exactly.
jobs. Like fix you and all the things first, and then the exterior, I believe, will level up to meet you because of your frequency of happiness and joy. Like, granted, if you're in an abusive situation, no one
Mm-hmm.
can get happy in an abusive situation. That's a
Right.
rough one. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, to your point, you need to fix you. The thing is not going to fix you. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Um, So one of the ways you can find that happiness or find that purpose is a concept called Ikigai, and it's a Japanese or Yakigai. It's a Japanese term for a reason for being. And I don't know if you might have heard of the blue zones of the world. So
Mhm.
it was one of the blue zones is in Okinawa, Japan. And there was, research as to why do these people in these blue zones live for so long? Like they're like 100-year-olds. What are the reasons that some of these people in Okinawa live for so long? And one of the reasons is they follow the concept of Ikigai. And what that is, it's found at the convergence of four elements. So it is what you love, so those relate to your strengths. What your love is related to your passions, what you're good at related to your strengths, and what the world needs. So, like that is related really to your values. And what does the world around you need? What do people around you need? What solve problems do you think that you'd love to solve? And then the fourth is what you can get paid for. So, what brings abundance into your life? And so it's an overlapping Venn diagram. And when you go through the pieces, which I take my clients through, I take them through each section of the diagram, you'll find overlapping pieces and overlapping elements, which and the center of that is your ikigai, your reason for being. And they found that finding your ikigai leads to a lot of happiness, resilience, improvement in self-esteem, you know, obviously longer lives, just more, um, yeah, and, sense of purpose. And so it's a really interesting concept that and like you said, it's like about those layers that we talked about earlier. It's about peeling the onion and figuring out like, what is it that you're really good at now? Like what do you do naturally that people come to you for? Like if you were to ask 5 people in your circle, like, what do you come to me for? Like you know, people are amazed that they don't really recognize their own strengths. And when they ask others, what do you come to me for? It's amazing what you'll discover. On the passion piece is like, what did you maybe do when you were a child? That time would just go by forever. And can you bring that into today? Um, and it's about, bringing that love that, like I talked about my client who brought that love of art and music into her life. And then it's about your values. Like, our values change, right, Meredith, as we grow older. Like, maybe before it was like climbing the corporate ladder or trying to get ahead or make the $1,000,000 or whatever. But now it's like giving back to your community. Is that what you're valuing right now? And who do you want to serve, right? And then it's about putting those pieces together, and it's how can you actually bring those things and bring abundance into your life. So when I did that, I realized that my Ikigai was to help women rediscover who they are, right? Because I had done that. I used this process, and I was like, I need to bring this out into the world and really apply it into practical lives. How can you actually, like, if it is a business you want to start, how do you do that practically? And is it aligning with those elements? So I don't know if that answered.
I think what's so interesting is so often, like speaking of your client that with the double PhD, is we forget that there are things that are important that don't make money.
Mhm.
And that a lot of times if we nurture the things that are important that don't necessarily make money, a lot of times we will end up making more money because we are a fulfilled human, well-rounded person.
Mhm.
And so the more we can be this fulfilled, well-rounded person, it will parlay into
Mhm.
everything else in our life. I tell my clients all the time, the way you do one thing is the way you'll do everything. And so if
Mhm.
you find joy and have joy throughout your life, and
Mhm.
also a lot of the women I'm sure that you're working with are becoming empty nesters. They have more time on their hands because their
Mhm.
kids have cars or they're off to college, and now all of a sudden they can fill their times instead of driving or going to events for their children. They have more time to paint. They have more time
Mhm.
to play pickleball. I even said to my husband yesterday, I'm like, we need an activity, because Saturday we had a whole day to ourselves. And I'm like, okay, well, we can go to Costco. What? That is not an activity. And I said to him yesterday, because, the kids are crazy with sports, but we only have 4 years and my oldest drives now. So it's just we have more time.
Mhm.
And so I just said to him, like, we need to take up like golf or tennis or pickleball or something, because shopping that's not a hobby, and that's not
Mhm.
healthy. And that's not like,
Mhm.
no, I don't want a lunch. I don't want a
Mhm.
dinner. I don't
Yeah.
want to shop. And so I think that it is super important to find your passion. And
Mhm.
especially being women, not many people are running around in a house asking mom what she wants outside of
Mhm.
maybe Mother's Day and a birthday if she's lucky. It's always, the focus is always kind of away from her. I just was at my girlfriend's place the other day, and we had a sleepover in the city, and we were talking. And I said, the majority of my day is spent talking to my husband about my husband or about the house or the kids, but the
Mhm.
majority of the day is or me in relationship to those things. Like,
Mhm.
like, are you taking the kids, or what do you think about this stuff, but not
Mhm.
really necessarily me
What you
and
want,
like
yeah.
what I'm up to. And so
Mhm.
it was so cool to sit there with my girlfriend, and we just talked about ourselves,
Yeah.
with each other
We're
for
not
like,
used to it, right? Yeah.
I'm totally not used to it. And I told her, I said, the a woman's happiness is directly proportionate to her girlfriends and how much time she spends with them. Because
Yes.
I mean, and it's not, and she said the same thing about her husband, and he's, got siblings who are, my husband is the baby and the only boy. So it's not because he's the baby and the only boy. I just think that men tend to be the sun that the world
Yes.
goes around. But
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
just like,
we're not used to talking about ourselves, talking about what we want, because we're always the first question is, "How are you?" or "What do you need from me?" And I think we need to change that around a little bit. Is that ask ourselves, and if nobody else is asking, ask ourselves, "What do I really need?" Like ask
yeah,
yourself in the morning, "What do I really want today? How do I want to be? Who do I want to be?" And it doesn't have, in response to what you're saying about finding an activity. It could be even something small every day that you just incorporate into your life. I don't know, like in the morning, if I have a morning routine, do some journaling, do some, go for a beautiful walk or a run, like
yeah,
do
I
something
walk
for,
miles.
yeah, do something for yourself, right? And that is your time to do
Yeah.
something for yourself. And that brings a lot of what is called anabolic energy, this positive energy, which I think I talked about that earlier, which really moves you forward and allows you to allows people and circumstances to come your way. And it's like a law of attraction kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
The more of that positive energy you have in your life, that you can focus on the things you love, the more that people are attracted to you and opportunities come your way as well. So it's really important to do that.
Yeah, I went through breast cancer like 5 years ago, and it was the point where I was then meeting with, like, the, nurse practitioners for just follow-ups.
Hmm.
And one of the biggest mistakes that I made, and I tell people this all the time who are going through cancer and none of them listen to me, is that the medical field focuses on making you better, but they
Hmm.
don't focus anything on your mental health, like at all. You really
Hmm.
need to advocate for yourself, get your own mental health practitioner, make sure you're seeing a therapist, make sure that
Hmm.
your spouse is seeing a therapist, and even maybe your children. Because
Hmm.
the one time I went in, the nurse practitioner, they this poor girl, they had this gal come in, she was in training, and she's
Hmm.
like, "So, how are you?" And I lost it. Like,
Hmm.
I lost it because it was the first time someone asked me how I was doing that I
Hmm.
felt that I could actually answer.
Hmm.
Not because my husband didn't ask me, but I didn't wanna put all of that on him. I didn't
Hmm.
wanna put that on my children. I didn't wanna put that on my friend because then your feelings
Hmm.
inside of your pain, now all of a sudden you just shared with someone, and now you have to make them feel better about you feeling bad, right?
Yeah.
So 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 it was
Well,
just
you know
like
what
this
she did is she provided you the space.
100%.
Right, and that's sometimes, even like, I think that's what really coaching is. I mean, you're a
Yep,
coach too, like,
yep.
it's providing that space and that vessel, I would say, to express. Sometimes I have sessions literally where I'm, like, barely say 2 words, right? I ask 1 question or 2 questions, and then I just listen,
Off they
and
go.
off they go, right?
Off they go.
And
You're
that
like,
happened just now, that's why I was a little late today. It's like I was like
off they went.
and you yes, off they went. So, but that's the beauty of it, and often it's, people that are not that close to you or not so close to you where, you feel like, "Oh, they're gonna judge me," or they're gonna,
Yeah,
it's a non-judgmental, safe space. And if
yep.
anybody hasn't had a coach or hasn't explored it, I think that's the biggest gift of having a coach is having that person that you can share whatever's in your heart with and have them guide you, right? So
And if you
that
don't know the
mirror.
difference out there that are listening between a coach and a therapist, I think it is profoundly different. Like when am with clients, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, like we give a lot of tools. And like I remember when I went to therapy, I always felt like I was being like shrunk or like they were trying to figure out what was wrong with me, even just like
Yeah.
it's very, very different in coaching. Like coaches are trying to find tools or like little like listening for ways to like
Mhm.
help or steer or like kind of like, okay, I hear this. Let me give you a tool for that so that you can move forward in a different way. Whenever I went to therapy, it was just like, how does that make you feel? And how do you feel
Yes.
about that?
Yeah.
And what does that make you? You know what I mean? Like it's just a very, very different vibe with
Well, I
coaching
mean,
than
I think definitely
each
there's a
has its
place
own
for yes, there's a place.
space.
I mean, if there's a lot of trauma or issues that I think the main difference, Meredith, is that coaching is very forward oriented and forward
Yeah.
thinking and very like what do we want to do for and how do we want to approach the future? Whereas therapy is a lot of looking back and seeing where did this issue come from. So it's more looking at your past.
Yeah.
And there's a place for both, but it just depends on what you need.
So you also have a podcast too. Can you talk about that for everybody so they can find you?
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, it's called the Midlife Reinvention Podcast, and it's approaching 200 episodes, which I'm really happy about. Yes, thank you,
Congratulations.
thank you. And I started that actually probably before I even started coaching.
Okay.
And the reason I started it is it's really around I have solo episodes and I also interview women who have reinvented themselves in one way or the other as kind of inspiration for the listeners.
Yeah.
If you're going through some kind of transition, if you're going through a career transition or a life transition, you're going not stay at home mom like we talked about, or you're going back into the workforce. It's like we all have these very common fears that we deal with that we I talk about with my guests. How did they overcome those fears? How did they gain the confidence to move forward? And it's really around transitions in life. How can we give people the tools and the inspiration to know that they can do whatever is in their heart? And so yeah, it's been great. I've enjoyed it. I'm still enjoying it. So let's see where it goes.
I love that.
I'd love
And
to have
so
you on, actually. It would be great.
anytime, anytime. I'm
Yes,
I'm like
yes,
the queen of transition.
yes.
Um and I know so many women are going to appreciate this because I feel that this is the time then we're making the biggest transition. Like we transition from like let's say our homes to being, in a relationship in a family setting and then okay, now what's next? So I think that
Mhm,
the podcast is for anybody literally with a beating heart like women out there because we're constantly transitioning
mhm,
constantly and we're
mhm.
here for everyone else's transitions too. So I think that
Yes.
that's really important is to like listen to the podcast so that you can help other people. So like this is for yourself, but it's also okay. My kids are transitioning to college. Let's talk about
Mhm,
imposter syndrome. Let's talk about
mhm,
what
mhm.
that transition's like, and you will be better at helping others transition that are around you.
Yes.
What can you tell the listeners or watchers that are watching here on YouTube, etc., about your coaching so that they can look for you and what it entails?
Absolutely. So, as I said before, it is a one-on-one coaching program that I have. It's primarily women. I do have if men are interested in that as well. But it is career and life transitions coaching, and we just discussed what that is. And I take, as I said before, it is a process where I not only look internally, we look deep, dig deep internally, but it's also externally applying that into your life. I talked about Ikigai, so it's a process of determining your Ikigai. And it's a process of every week or every time we meet, what is blocking you really? Like, we talked a little bit about imposter syndrome. We talked about their inner critics. What is blocking you from really achieving your vision of yourself? Firstly, you have to create a vision. You have to know what that vision is. And it's about being an accountability partner for you. And you know, I think people can go through life and if they have a vision for themselves, they can try and do it themselves. And you can. But when you have the help of a coach or an accountability partner, it just makes it maybe the time shortened, to
Yeah.
achieve your goals. And it also it's like, no, maybe you can do it this way, or you can do this way. Because I went through that process myself. I transitioned from the corporate career of 25 years to becoming a coach and an entrepreneur, and I didn't know anything about podcasting. I didn't, if I can do it, let's put it this way, if I
Right.
can reinvent myself after 50, then uh, I think
And
anyone
there's so
can.
many
So.
amazing tools, reverse engineering. And I think so often we just get stuck that this is who I am.
Mhm.
This is who I am. It's
Mhm.
like, no,
Yes.
no, if you can see it, if you can imagine it, and if it's on television, if you could see it in a movie, like a lot of times inspiration's all around you, like use
Yes.
all of that. So I think that this is so, so amazing. I'm going to put in the show notes, but just for people that are listening, what is your website so that people can find you? Are you on the socials? We'll put that on the show notes, but let everybody know those
Absolutely.
things.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, my you can find the best place to find me is my website. It's mytimenowcoaching.com.
Awesome.
And on there you can find all the details about my coaching program. I have a one-on-one coaching. I have an online course as well where I have all my tools and that if you prefer self-development, self-learning. My podcast is on there again. It's called the Midlife Reinvention Podcast, and I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well. So, and I'm offering, I love to have, chemistry calls, discovery calls with people who are interested. It's really a way for you to understand, what might be blocking you, what might you be looking forward to in your future. And so we kind of even go through a mini Ikigai exercise, and I'm happy to offer that to anyone who's interested. Kavita, Kavita at itsmytimenowcoaching.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much for being on today. I really appreciate this conversation because I think it's going to resonate with everybody that's listening,
Well,
literally.
well, you
So,
have a wonderful way of interviewing. I really appreciate your candor and the questions you've asked. So thank you so much for the space and
of
time.
course, thank you,
Yes.
Kavita. Everyone, check her out on her website. It'll be in the show notes and over on LinkedIn, etc. Check her out. She's willing to do a call with you to see if you guys are a good fit for coaching. I think that's huge. So thank you so much, and we'll see you guys all back here next week.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you would like to connect on a more personal level, head over to meredithwillits.com or on Instagram at Meredith with a Y for behind-the-scene footage and outtakes. Please subscribe and come back each week for more Meredith with a Y.